Okay, Madam Clerk, Ms. Langley, if you would like to start us off in the second part.
Through you to members of the committee, on your agenda you have recommendation 3A and 3B that were listed in a specific order. I am recommending that we switch that order and we do 3B first. And the reason for that is that the standard method that you're used to is to have the budget before you and amendments below it. I had put item 3A above it because it was an extracted item out of the recommendation. However, I think for simplistic sake, if we reversed it, it's more understanding and more in line with what you're used to doing. So if we put the fire budget on the table, the amendment is that we replace the fire capital budget with option 2 in order to come in line with the 4.84 increase that's recommended. And so you can vote on that as an amendment to the fire budget. So if we start with 3B and get a mover and seconder, that would be appropriate.
Okay, Councilor Bilsma, Councilor Cadan. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Oh, you need to, okay. I need a mover and a seconder for the amendment now. Councilor Trumbetta, Councilor Cadan. So now we'll ask the question. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, yes, oh. Okay, questions or comments for the amendment? Seeing none, do you want to?
Is this when I can ask you the question? Okay, so I'm now on to ask the question that I tried to ask before, and that was, and Mr. Cosby's still here, so I'm happy that he stayed to hear that. I had asked that our CAO provide an answer to Mr. Cosby's concern about the effect on his or other insurance, residents' insurance, based on a higher standard that's perceived to be there governing our vehicles.
Through you to Mr. Cosby and members of the committee, as we were previously advised, the accreditation of the fire department would not necessarily impact insurance rates by insurance providers for public insurance. There are some that will look at accreditation, but many that don't take it into account, and in fact some of them who don't have lower rates than those who do. So the impact wouldn't be of a value that would impact the decision regarding that.
Thank you.
Okay, any others? Question now? Councilor Bilsma?
Just a simple one, is this question's to the fire chief. Is he comfortable with this? Or is he like angry? Oh, he's laughing, that's okay, that's a good sign.
Through you, Chairman Bell, to Councillor Balsma. No, I guess I would say I'm not. I believe it's time for it to be replaced. It's 20 years old. I understand the fact that there's some pressure on fire reserves. I understand that situation. But, you know, at the end of the day, you're talking about a piece of emergency service equipment. And that's my concern.
Just then one more follow-up then. So I can appreciate that, and somebody has to defend, you know, somebody has to shill and defend and give explanation to. So I can appreciate that, and I can appreciate that you appreciate what we have to do. The second question is, does this compound, like what's, I don't have it in front of me. The next piece of equipment, is it the aerial truck or is it a haul?
No.
It's the haul, isn't it? No?
No, it's, I think there's a tanker that comes in
Tanker
before
in
there.
there, in
Okay.
the hall.
If I'm not
2020. Okay,
mistaken.
thank you. That's all I need to know.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Gadan?
Okay, I would just like to say, although that we brought this issue up, the fact that we're looking at a $550,000 vehicle, and included was also another $40,000 expenditure, at our $59,000 equals a 1% increase to the levy. That would put an additional 10% to our levy to do that. By moving it out a year, we're allowing for money to go into the reserves for another year to help offset that and save that additional 10% at this point in time. So that would be my reasoning behind that.
Chief Fisher?
Just, keeping in mind, if it's council's wishes to move it out till 2019, the delivery date will not be until 2020.
Yep. Okay. Councillor Chichak?
I guess I totally understand both sides of that conversation. And I think what we need to look at is we've had to look at our first step of looking at debt. And we are certainly not ready to look at a second stage of debt. But if we don't get this budget approved and look to see how this community is growing and what our needs are, our only option will be to go to debt to try and get this thing, to not have 10% for one vehicle, never mind anything else that's in the budget. And I think that we're doing a lot this year. And if we're looking at funding that might be coming from the federal government, because there's an election not this year but next, and the provincial government is changing, I would really like to test the waters to see what's coming at us and what possibly we can rely on in order to not look at next year. And our treasurer's already said that we know we're going to have to go to debt at some point because these budgets are just getting substantially overwhelming, and they're going to cause us to trigger a need to borrow externally. So if by next year we've determined that feds aren't giving us money to offset infrastructure, or the province hasn't found a way to give us more money for something else, we may have no option. But we'll get this done when it's appropriate. But I think we're in the midst of 2 elections plus our own, and I think next year would be prudent to look at this expenditure.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. I just have one. I know that this was brought up at the draft budget, and I'm okay pushing it for a year, simply because of discussions that's been had revolving around the insurance company, the accreditation of it, the condition of the truck. I know it's been said it's an emergency piece of equipment. I totally understand that. And taking everything into consideration, I don't have an issue moving it back, because what it does for our community overall, we still have fire protection. We have lots of it. We're not putting a piece of equipment out of service by any means. And it's bringing the finances of the fire department back into good shape where we can move forward and get more for them. We've done lots with the fire department. We want to continue to do lots with them, but we just can't go into a deficit for this many years for one piece of equipment that isn't going to jump out and save our community right away. I mean, there's lots, we're growing with development, there's lots of opportunity for equipment, and we are going to get there. And now, like I say, I'm okay with this because of what it's going to do for the budget for the fire department and their reserves overall. It's going to help them. I know it's a hard pill to swallow, and I totally understand it. I've done a lot of wrestling with this since the initial discussions took place, but I think this is where we need to be for this one, so that's just my comments. Anyone else? Comments? Questions? As amended. Oh, yeah. All those in favor of the amendment? Carried. Okay, now the original motion as amended. All those in favor? 3. You'll wait. Okay, carried. Yeah, it says conflict. So I duly noted the mayor had no discussions, no vote. Okay. So now we're going back to the other one. so we don't need that now. Okay. So now, okay, number 11, there will be no administration, finance, fire committee meeting required for tomorrow, as there is no further deliberations on the 2018 budget. Okay, and then we go on to other business. Yep. Other business. Okay. Okay, other business item A42-18, members of the committee, verbal updates from members of the boards and/or committees if required. Anybody have any questions, comments, any updates of interest? Councilor Cadan?
Just because it's getting close, I'd like to just remind people, although I have already mentioned this to council, West Lincoln Community Care's grand opening is this Saturday. The facility is open from 10 until 4 to the public to have a look at the new building and see how well stocked it is. Members of council, the official ribbon cutting and actual ceremonies is at 11 o'clock that morning. And so I was asked, actually, if I happen to know how many were planning to attend. Does anybody know that that fits in with their schedule?
Yeah, Lynn and I will be there.
Okay, sorry. Councilor Bill's my question.
Well, could I just have staff just give me a little reminder in my inbox, just, you know.
How be I send you a reminder?
Thanks, thanks.
Okay. And actually, members of staff as well. Of course, you're always invited to come and see. It's a wonderful facility, and I'm sure that it will benefit the community a great deal.
Coffee and lunch?
Coffee and something. I don't know what the food is. There will be.
Okay, anybody else? Councilor Chichek?
I guess I just want to say good wishes, and my heart will be there with you. I've already had a chance sneak preview at the facilities to all the members of council, and as I unloaded the back of the van, realizing that I was ahead of schedule, I hope I've made a contribution. But this weekend is a fairly significant weekend for us, for the Chichok family, as we're going to watch Anne Marie get an award for Lifetime Achievement with 4-H in Nottawasaga. So I'm sorry, but I will be missing the opening, but I will be there in spirit, and I do want to commend, for the record, one of the Chichok family, even though I probably have a conflict there, but only to say, well deserved and well earned.
Any others? Okay, seeing none. Item A, 4318, it's the same as we just had. Mayor Joyner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to talk about the fact that, in keeping on topic with the West Lincoln Community Care, on Friday morning, starting at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, at West Lincoln Community Care, 610 CKTB will be doing their roundtable at the West Lincoln Community Care facility, which is really kind of cool because, you know, not only are they going to be able to speak to all kinds of different organizations from West Lincoln, but they're also going to be able to showcase West Lincoln Community Care and talk about their grand opening on Saturday too as well. So the 610 CKTB Roadshow, Roundtable Roadshow, happens in every municipality, and it just so happens that this is our turn. And it was really kind of cool that the very fact that they wanted to come to West Lincoln on the 23rd and Community Care was opening on the 24th, it just turned out really nicely.
Starts at 6:30.
6:30, and all members of council are welcome to come and watch.
You're on your own. Just wanted to let you know that. Anyone else? Okay. New business? Seeing none. There's no confidential matters tonight. And this meeting's adjourned at 9:34 p.m.
Nicely done.